no doubt that Japan is a very strategic partner to Indonesia. Since the diplomatic relationship began in 1958, the two Asian nations have shared historical, political, and economic ties. And now in 2023, the relationship have never been better. Hi, I'm Cisca Becker. For today's edition of Ambassador Corner, please join my conversation with the Japanese Ambassador to Indonesia, His Excellency Mr. Kenji Kanasugi, as we explore more about the relationship about our countries and also about the many-faceted Japanese culture right here in his private residence.
Japan, one of the world's most literate and technically advanced nations, is an East Asian archipelago country on the eastern edge of Asia. There are 4 primary islands: Hokkaido, Honshu, Shikoku, and Kyushu. While most of Japan is covered by mountains and heavily wooded areas, the country's people lead a distinctly urban lifestyle. Japan is known worldwide for its traditional arts, including tea ceremonies, calligraphy, and flower arranging. The country has a legacy of distinctive gardens, sculpture, and poetry. Japan is home to more than a dozen UNESCO World Heritage Sites and is the birthplace of sushi, one of its most famous culinary exports. However, Japan is also known for its singular popular culture of manga, graphic novels and comic books, and anime, or distinctive animated films and cartoons, which have a cult of followers around the world. Japan is Indonesia's 3rd biggest trading partner and 4th biggest investor in 2022. The Indonesia-Japan diplomatic relations were established on January the 20th, 1958, and its status was later upgraded to a strategic partnership on November 28, 2006.
Welcome to today's edition of Ambassador Corner. I'm Cisca Becker, and in today's edition, I'll be having a conversation with the Japan's Ambassador to Indonesia, His Excellency Mr. Kenji Kanasugi. Your Excellency, good morning. Ohayo gozaimasu.
Ohayo gozaimasu. Thank you very much for having me.
Of course, I was just going to express our most sincere gratitude for allowing us to have this conversation again in this beautiful private residence. It's good to be back, Your Excellency.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Now, the last time we spoke, we talked a lot about Japan's and Indonesia's bilateral relationship. So if you don't mind, we would like to get an update of the current status and condition of the relationship between our two countries.
Sure.
And of course, to highlight your 3 years of living in Jakarta and Indonesia as ambassador and to learn more about Japanese culture. But let me say first that I'm sure that throughout these 3 years of your posting here in Jakarta and Indonesia, a lot has actually happened. You have presided Japan's partnership with Indonesia throughout many diplomatic milestones for Indonesia, from the G20 presidency and then ASEAN chairmanship. And of course, there were a lot of economic and political partnerships between Japan and Indonesia. So how would you say is Japan and Indonesia relationship right now after 65 years of bilateral relationship in 2023?
Yes, first of all, I'd like to remind you that I came here 2 years, 8 months ago during the time of first wave of COVID.
Yes.
So for the first 1 year, I was not able to do much. But since April last year, things started. And as you rightly pointed out, last year G20 presidency and this year ASEAN chair countryship. So I think a lot of things have happening, particularly this year as we hosted the G7 process and Indonesia ASEAN chair. I'm glad to see that the President Joko Widodo went to Japan to attend the G7 Hiroshima summit in May. And then their Majesties, Emperor and Empress, the photos are just over there. They came to Indonesia for their first official trip after enthronement 5 years ago. So I feel very honored that they chose Indonesia as its first overseas destination. And most recently, Prime Minister Kishida came here last month to attend ASEAN-related summit. And we had a bilateral discussion, and we decided to upgrade our partnership to a comprehensive economic partnership. And in December this year, we are going to have a commemorative summit commemorating Japan-ASEAN 50th anniversary friendship and cooperation. And again, I'm happy to see that President Joko Widodo going to Japan.
Okay, so a lot of encouraging updates. Now, if you allow me to talk a little bit more specific on the economic partnership side of Japan and Indonesia, there is no doubt that Japan is a very strategic partner to Indonesia. Japan is the third biggest trading partner to Indonesia, fourth biggest investor in Indonesia for 2022. And there have been a lot of economic partnerships between our two countries. But how would you say is the future prospects? Because now that we are nearing the end of 2023, maybe you can give us a bit of like a short recap of the partnership this year and what to look forward to in the next year.
Yeah, thank you very much. As you rightly pointed out, Japan is one of the important trading partners for Indonesia, but vice versa. Japan is one of the third largest trading partners for Indonesia for many years, and on an accumulated basis, a number 2 investor, just after Singapore. So now 1,800 Japanese companies are operating in Indonesia and creating 7.2 million jobs. And Japanese affiliated companies are contributing to about 9% of Indonesia's GDP, as well as about a quarter of Indonesia's export. But I think Japanese companies are expanding the scope of investment. In the past, our investment was focusing on auto and auto parts, as well as energy sector. But nowadays, financial sector, property development, food and beverage, and retail sector, for example.
Even beauty industry is now really blossoming with many Japanese brands.
Yes. So I think based on the past achievement, we are now trying to expand the scope of our relationship into various fields.
Okay, that's great to hear, Your Excellency. Now I would like to mention about one of the most strategic partnership between Japan and Indonesia, and that is the MRT project. As you must agree, you see it for yourself, it's been highly successful. It is probably one of the most favorite mode of transportation, especially for Jakartans. It has changed the way people commute now from day to day. And of course, for many Jakartans, they are very much looking forward to the expansion of this project to see even more routes, even more tracks, and so even more Indonesians, especially Jakartans, can make the most of this technology, the MRT. Is it any way we can expect to have this expansion happening anytime soon, Your Excellency?
Yes, there is a plan. Altogether, we completed only one quarter of the entire project. So MRT is going to expand up north to Kota area, and also east-west line is around the corner. So as I said, yes, MRT has been changing the lifestyle of many Jakartans. People rely on more public transportation, and what we are proud of is that all are operated by Indonesian personnel are operating all the trains, and all the maintenance work have been done by Indonesian engineers. I visited the depot of MRT, and I was amazed to see that so many female young engineers who just graduated from university are enthusiastically performing maintenance work. So that's what we are proud of.
Okay, I think many Jakartans are very happy to see that update that you just shared with us, Your Excellency. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, Your Excellency, we've had so many insights so far with our conversation. We're going to take a little break now, but when we come back, I would like to learn more about your journey and also your experiences living in Jakarta.
Sure, thank you.
Right. So don't go anywhere, Ambassador Corner, we'll be right back. You are still watching Ambassador Corner on TVRI World with me, Cisca Becker, and my very special guest, His Excellency Kenji Kanasugi, Japanese Ambassador to Indonesia. Your Excellency, as you mentioned before, you've been here almost 3 years.
Almost 3 years, yes.
2 years,
2 years and 8 months. Yes.
A lot has happened. And although this is your first posting in Southeast Asia, but you have been a career diplomat for the past 35 years. So I imagine you have a lot of expert opinions on why this region, especially Indonesia, is very interesting and strategic to Japan. But I want to know firsthand, what has been the most valuable lesson you've learned since your posting here in Jakarta?
Well, I think diversity of this country is striking to me.
Okay.
As you may know, Japan is aging society with smaller number of children.
Yeah.
So population is shrinking by 500,000 every year or more. And average age is 49 years old.
Okay.
Whereas here, average age is about 30, and population is growing by 3 million or more.
Yes.
So I find so many young, energetic, vibrant people here in Indonesia. And also, Japan is a kind of monolithic society, whereas here, more than 700 ethnic groups enjoying harmony, eating different kinds of foods, different culture, different language.
Yes.
So I'm really struck by or impressed by the diversity of Indonesia.
Okay, that's very lovely to hear, Your Excellency. Now, I learned that you actually graduated from Faculty of Law in 1983 in Japan, before then going to the Foreign Ministry in Japan, and then you were actually the Senior Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs before you were posted here in Jakarta and Indonesia. But could you please share with us, how did you start your love and passion for diplomacy, and what prompted your shift from law to being a career diplomat?
Yes, at school I studied international law, so it's a kind of pathway to be diplomatic service.
Okay.
And the reason why I joined the foreign service is that my father's generation, they were involved in World War II.
Okay.
But since then, Japan has been a peace-loving nation.
Yes.
And maybe diplomats are playing some role to keep Japan safe and peace-loving.
Okay.
And I just wanted to be a part of diplomatic service. So I joined the Foreign Service 1983, started my overseas career in Australia, then Malaysia, United States, Washington, D.C., and most recently South Korea as Deputy Chief of Mission. So, but Indonesia is my first ambassadorship. So I'm very excited to be here as ambassador.
Okay, so it has been your life passion, actually, to pursue a career in diplomacy.
Yes, yes, but I don't have much talent, so I have nothing else to do, maybe.
You're being too humble, Your Excellency. Now, every time I ask, one of the most challenging parts of an ambassador's life, of any diplomat's life, is balancing life between their work and family, because it's really hard to move around when you have a family behind you. How has it been for you personally, Your Excellency?
Well, my wife is upstairs, and I have 2 grown-up daughters. Now it's okay, they're grown up and working in their respective working field. But when they were young, it was a little bit difficult because I had to go overseas on business trip on so many occasions. Sometimes I traveled almost 20 times a year. So I don't really remember my daughter's childhood. So which my wife always blamed. So I should have been taking care of our daughters more carefully when they were young. But yeah, they are grown up okay. So I think it should be okay.
Okay. Now, being a mom of 3 myself, I could totally relate about what your wife has requested, but I'm sure your children are very proud of you and with everything you've accomplished.
Thank you very much.
Now, Your Excellency, I want to ask you more about your experiences living in Jakarta, Indonesia. Now, last time we spoke, you mentioned about your love of Indonesian food, especially everything that has noodles in them. You specifically mentioned mie celor, if I'm not mistaken, as being one of your favorite. I just want to know, has your culinary adventures expanded since the last time we spoke? Are there any new Indonesian food, or maybe your tolerance of spicy food has increased?
Well, spicy food I don't really mind.
Okay.
Yes, but wherever I go, I try to enjoy local cuisine.
Okay.
So in Manado, for example, very spicy.
That's very spicy.
Mie cakalang, for example,
Yes.
very spicy. So I was really sweating. And in Papua, what do you call papeda?
Yes.
It's a very sticky,
Yeah.
yes, with a fish
the
soup.
glutinous.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
And also in Makassar, I enjoyed the Choto Makassar.
Oh, that's
It's
very
yeah,
delicious.
thick, spicy beef soup.
Okay.
So wherever I go, I try to enjoy local delicacies.
Oh, okay. That's very exciting to hear. What has been your most favorite and memorable experiences exploring Indonesia, Your Excellency?
Well, personally, I enjoyed my trip to Yogyakarta.
Oh, okay.
It's a old capital, and it has sister city relationship with Kyoto,
Yes.
which is old capital of Japan. So atmosphere is quite similar. They put emphasis on tradition, traditional culture, and a city of academia.
Yes.
So I really enjoyed Jogja, and in the vicinity there are Borobudur, Prambanan,
Okay.
a lot of national heritage or world heritage. So yes, Jogja is a very nice city for me.
Jogja and Kyoto, I can say from personal experience, do have many similarities. You know, there is strong sense of culture and heritage and tradition, and it's also very relaxing. There's a strong sense of a community also you can feel there. So it'd be interesting to learn how the students in Yogyakarta would feel about, studying in Japan, for example. And I've been hearing there have been a lot of increase of interest from Indonesian students to study in Japan. Maybe you can share a little bit about that,
Yes.
Your Excellency. How has it been in educational field, the cooperation between Japan and Indonesia?
I'm glad to see that a lot of Indonesian students are inclined to learn Japanese language. Now, more than 700,000 Indonesian students are learning Japanese.
Wow.
The number is the second largest in the world.
Okay.
And also, currently, about 5,000 Indonesian students are studying in Japan at the tertiary education level.
Yeah.
So I think I'd like to encourage more Indonesian students to come to Japan and feel the real touch of Japanese culture. Yeah.
Okay, Your Excellency, you have provided me with the best segue to our next segment, where we're going to introduce to our viewers the many facets of Japanese culture.
Sure.
Now we're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about the beauty of Japanese culture. We'll be right back. Thank you for staying with us on Ambassador Corner. On my last part of conversation with my guest, His Excellency Kenji Kanasugi, the Japanese ambassador to Indonesia. Now, Your Excellency, I've been meaning to ask you, but I've been holding this question for our last segment because we're going to talk about Japanese culture. Please tell us about this handsome kimono set you're wearing.
Oh, well, thank you very much. About 100 years ago, 150 years ago, rather, kimono was a common feature in the Japanese society.
Day to day, everybody
Day to day, everybody was wearing kimono at the time. But in the year 1686, we had the so-called Meiji Restoration, and the Japanese society started to be modernized, and the people started to wear more sort of westernized clothes. So nowadays, this kind of kimono is something special. Something we wear on a special occasions. So today is one of such occasions for me. So I'm wearing this.
Thank you so much. We are very humbled to hear that. And I've worn kimono myself during my last visit to Japan. It is really beautiful. I felt absolutely regal in it, but I agree it is not the most practical attire that you can wear, but I'm very glad to learn more about this specific kimono that you're wearing. And I presume a lot of Indonesians actually are really fascinated with Japanese culture. Now you might know there's a lot of what we call wibu in here, fans of Japanese culture. There's a lot of facets of the Japanese culture. You have the modern contemporary culture, the pop culture, the anime, the manga, the music, J-rock, J-pop, and so on. And then you have the very traditional and cultural side of it. Now, how do you present it to Indonesia, in Jakarta in particular, to everybody who wants to learn about the Japanese culture?
I think, again, I very much appreciate the Indonesian people's strong interest in Japanese culture, both traditional and contemporary. And in order to outreach these Indonesian people, particularly Jakartans, since 2009, we are having Jakarta Japan Matsuri. Matsuri means festival.
That's right.
Yes, and because of the COVID, there are a couple of years interval, but last year we resuscitated the Jakarta Japan Matsuri, and we really glad to see, I think more than 940,000 people.
It was crazy. So many people showed up.
The building was really packed, and you know, to the point of becoming dangerous to have more spectators. And this year, to commemorate the 65th anniversary of our diplomatic relationship, Jakarta Japan Matsuri again is taking place next month, 18th and 19th November. So we are going to publicize, make a big publication to this event in the future. So please, if you are interested in, please come to see Jakarta Japan Matsuri.
Wow, even without you, without your invitation, a lot of people are looking forward to it, Your Excellency, and I'm sure everyone is really excited by now, preparing their cosplays and their costumes to attend the event. Now, I understand that the interest in Japanese culture is really high in Indonesia, and probably one of the reasons why Indonesia feels such a close affinity to Japan, especially in this last couple of years, is because of the social media from the Japanese embassy here in Jakarta. I think last time I saw you've reached around 143,000 followers, and you've been really routinely, I would say, updating activities and parts of the Japanese culture and activities. Could you share with us the reason why do you do this? Because it takes a lot of time and effort actually to, you know, keep up a social media persona, Your Excellency.
Well, Indonesia is such a big country and a growing population. And particularly in order to reach out to younger generation of Indonesian people, using social media is very, very important. So I try to focus on my activities through social media. And I think I'm posting once in every 2 days, every other day. And of course, I'd like to send out some policy-related message. But viewers on these policy-related things is very small, whereas eating noodles attract a lot of people. But it's a mixture. The bottom line is it's very important for us to reach out to younger generation of Indonesian people to let them know what Japan is and how Japan is acting.
Now, speaking of your social media feed, as you mentioned, you featured a lot of videos and a picture of yourself enjoying Indonesian delicacy. So now I would like to turn the table around since we're talking about Japanese culture. If you want to recommend Japanese food to Indonesians who probably never been to Japan and when they go there they want to have like a culinary adventure, what would you suggest for them to enjoy? A must-have culinary delight to have while in Japan?
I think sushi may be the one. Yes, because sushi is a kind of living food, meaning that we have very traditional sushi in Japan, but sushi is adaptable to changing environment in the region or to the countries. So here in Indonesia, We have very spicy sushi, for example,
that's true.
at local sushi bars, or sushi with a lot of mayonnaise on top.
Yeah, spicy mayonnaise.
Yeah, I don't really see back in Japan.
Okay.
But okay. Yeah.
So that's like a fusion.
Yes,
with,
it's
with
really
Indonesian
fusion.
taste. Yeah.
Yes. So if you go to Canada, for example, you can see the what you call tuna skin sushi.
Okay.
So it's a kind of fried tuna skin, but very tasty.
Yes.
So adapting to the local culinary culture is a strong point of sushi.
Oh wow. You can say that sushi has become like a tool for food diplomacy for Japan around the world.
Yes.
Another encouraging update that we've had from Japan is, of course, now that it's open for visitors. Once again, travelers from Indonesia has been going to Japan in huge numbers. I hear the numbers are increasing, especially because of the fact that now Indonesian e-passport holders can easily attain maybe you can still say it visa, but it's now very easy
just
to
register.
register.
Yeah, e-passport, that's it.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe you can give us a little bit update on that about how Indonesia and Japan is now increasing their cooperation in the tourism side.
I think before COVID, we had about 400,000 Indonesian tourists visiting Japan. But the COVID ruined all our joint efforts.
Yes.
But this year, up until August this year, we had about 250,000 Indonesian people traveling to Japan. Yes. So the number is almost back to the normal pre-COVID time of 2019.
All right.
And whether we like it or not, yen is very much devaluated now. So Indonesian people can enjoy very reasonable stay, reasonable cuisine in Japan.
Okay.
So hopefully we can go over the number of Indonesian tourists which recorded in 2019. This year, maybe more than 400,000 or more Indonesian people can visit Japan. So it contributes to Japanese economy.
Wow, that's very great to hear. So no better time to visit Japan than now for Indonesians.
It's a good time. Yeah,
right.
Indeed, it's good time.
Your Excellency, thank you so much once again for sharing with us your time, your insights, and many inspirations on how to enjoy Japanese culture in Indonesia and also in Japan. Arigatou gozaimasu, Your Excellency.
Terima kasih banyak.
We wish you the best of health, and hopefully we can see each other again in the near future
Thank
for
you
more
very much.
conversations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency.
Thank you.
Now that's the end of today's edition of Ambassador Corner with me, Cisca Becker. I look forward to seeing you in future episodes of Ambassador Corner. Until then, take care and goodbye. Thank you for watching.